The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour.
ChatGPT did become the world's most downloaded non-gaming app.
Literally the job of everyone in government to address the media and the public.
What are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on Zandy Silva as the deputy PLP leader?
A community that can't feed itself is a community that,
What you may not know, though, is that Bermuda, we have a connection with Epstein, too.
Things that people are doing right, the youth are doing right, that is not being advertised enough.
When you see your access to U.S. dollars disappear, that's when you have a problem.
If you've got a town in the UK with a similar sized population, this place absolutely outshines it.
It's Wednesday, the 25th day of March, 2026. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. This is the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, HSBC Bermuda, Medical House, Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 1075 for ensuring that we can do this with you and pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. I'm Jamal Hartman, and we'll have a news break from Teo Dill in a bit. How's everyone feeling? How are you all doing today? It's the middle of the traditional work week. Some of you refer to it as hump day. Hopefully you all are having a wonderful week. First full week of spring, right? First full week. I feel, I must say, I actually sympathize greatly with those who have allergies, because here in Atlanta, Georgia, I went to the car wash on Monday and my car's got green all over it, right? Like pollen is in the air, folks. And I really, really feel for those who have allergies. This is not a good time for them. So for all those, others who might be enjoying a bit of spring weather, if it's, you're in a space where you're getting it, all the best to you. I hope you get everything that you want out of it. Suzanne Ingham says, good morning, Jamel. It's a super awesome Wednesday, and a good morning to you as well, Suzanne. A super awesome Wednesday indeed. All right. Well, greetings, everyone, and thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome Chief Inspector Robert Cardwell from the Bermuda Police Service onto the show. We're discussing police and prevention and changing driver behavior. A lot of work. The Bermuda Police Service has been very transparent about with the data that they've shared with us. We've had conversations numerous on this program about our own behavior and accountability. Actually, the last thing I put on TikTok, probably the only thing I put on there this year, or one of two, was regarding the state of the roads when I was leaving Bermuda a couple weeks ago. So always looking forward to these conversations, not to complain or not to just talk, but really for all of us to dig deep and take accountability for our actions, and also those of our family, friends, and loved ones. Audience, don't forget to subscribe the daily play today, sorry. It's going to be music and entertainment, so I think you all have got this. You've done pretty well lately. Don't forget to subscribe on our website, thedailyhour.com. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Claire Warner says, good morning, Jamal in Bermuda. Well, good morning to you as well. Suzanne Ingham says, thank you for your concern for my allergies, Jamal. Headache already up. Spring is here. Yeah, honestly, I never understood it as a child. And as I got older, I saw more people dealing with them. So I hope you all get through this season well. Spring and fall used to be my two favorite seasons. But when I saw how many people had to deal with allergies during spring, I said, all right, I'm a rock with fall. That's when, that's my favorite season of the year. All right, folks, questions of the morning. And I want you to do me a favor as we jump into this. I want you to share the link with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Make sure you give us a like, love, follow, share if you're streaming with us on any of the social media platforms. But I feel like this conversation is necessary. It's something, we've had since the beginning of this show. We've had a very a close relationship with the Information Commissioner's Office. And we'll go into detail about that. But questions of the morning are, what are what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the Information Commissioner's Office? What are your thoughts, right? What are your thoughts on the Information Commissioner's Office? What are your thoughts on the Information Commissioner's Office? Like, what are your thoughts? Do you have any? What are your thoughts on the Information Commissioner's Office? And also, do you believe, it's a yes or no, do you believe transparency in Bermuda is getting weaker? Do you believe transparency is getting weaker? Well, our friends at the Royal Gazette have shared quite a few stories regarding the ICO. And basically, there was a warning coming from the opposition, One Bermuda Alliance, that should actually concern us all. And not because it's political, but because of what it says about transparency in Bermuda. The One Bermuda Alliance is claiming that the Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO, is dying by 1,000 cuts due to underfunding. Now, that's a strong statement. But here's where it gets more serious. We already know the ICO is dealing with real staffing shortages right now. According to the latest budget, the office is supposed to have 8 staff, but currently there's just 5. That includes vacancies for key roles like investigators and administrative support. And here's the part that should stand out. Those vacancies represent about a quarter of the office's operational capacity. Think about that. This is the body responsible for ensuring your right to access, information under the PATI Act, the Public Access to Information Act, and it's operating below capacity. Now, on top of that, the government is trying to cut costs by relying more in-house, on in-house resources instead of external legal support, and even looking at relocating the office to save money. So now the opposition is saying this isn't just budgeting, it's erosion. Because when you combine staff shortages, resource constraints, and increasing demand for oversight, you don't just get a smaller office, you get a weaker watchdog. And here's the real issue. Transparency doesn't collapse overnight. It fades slowly, quietly. A delay here, a backlog there, fewer investigations, slower decisions, until one day people stop expecting answers altogether. Now, to be fair, the government would argue this is about managing limited resources. Yeah, every department is competing for funding. But the question we have to ask is very simple. Where does transparency rank? Because if the institution responsible for holding power accountable is under strain, then accountability itself is under strain. What are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on the ICO? What are your thoughts on the Information Commissioner's Office? And also, do you believe transparency in Bermuda is getting weaker? What are your thoughts on all of this? Let us know. I'll go through this because, again, this is a conversation everyone should be a part of. So the ICO's current situation, the budget allocation is 1.28 million. Staff should be at 8. They're currently at 5. All right. Key roles vacant: a senior investigation officer, administrative assistant. Vacancies represent 25% of operational capacity. Now, cost-cutting measures: reduced use of external legal services and potential relocation of office to save costs. Okay. The OBA claimed the ICO is dying by 1,000 cuts, as I mentioned. The argument: underfunding is weakening oversight capacity. Why this matters? The ICO, petty, Public Access to Information Act. They handle appeals when government denies access, issues binding decisions. Has real world impact. If weakened, slower response times, backlogs in investigations, reduced ability to challenge government decisions. Bigger question. Is this normal budget pressure or systemic underfunding of oversight bodies? I would love to know the thoughts of former Premier Alex Scott on this. Again, question of the morning, audience, may seem little to you, may not seem as important. But with the ICO being under, this is where a lot of people got information. This is where you found out stuff, whether it was about government quangos, about contracts within government. This is the space that helps you retrieve information that should be public knowledge, but it's not. So what are your thoughts on the Information Commissioner's Office? Do you care whether or not they're funded? Like, what are your thoughts on it? And do you believe transparency is getting weaker in Bermuda? Do you care for it? Does it matter to you? Let's go to the audience, see what you are saying. Suzanne Ingham says, I don't think of it at all. I'd say transparency is almost non-existent, especially in government and political parties. Just my opinion. Fair enough. That said, that you don't even think about it. So are you saying that you believe that the ICO is ineffective, Suzanne? We've got Michelle White says, what? I thought the ICO is supposed to be an independent watchdog. Unacceptable. This is one department that should have resources. Yes, it erodes transparency. I want to touch on this for a second. I want to touch on this. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, audience, but I'm pretty sure with the latest budget, every ministry got an increase. I'm pretty sure I read that. Every ministry received an increase. And if that's the case, of all the things to cut, why would the ICO be one of them? Of all the areas to cut within any ministry and in government departments, why would the ICO? Think about that. Now, I don't know off the top of my head anything that the ICO has done that would seem to threaten the government. I mean, outside of telling the truth. And I'm not being funny with that. But this is concerning, folks. This is your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Again, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the Information Commissioner's Office? Do you even think of the ICO? Like, is this something where you feel like it's necessary? Personally, I do. I think it gave people an outlet, especially journalists. You know, some of those stories that our good friends like Sam Strangeways have broken over the years. Things you didn't know about the Gaming Commission in particular. Yeah, the ICO was helpful with that. I know Maya Palacio has used it quite a bit in the past. You know, finding out those big, salaries and the different quangos and boards. Oh, the ICO has a place. So what are your thoughts, audience? What are your thoughts on the Information Commissioner's Office? Do you believe transparency in Bermuda is weaker? What we're discussing, folks, is that the ICO is currently being underfunded, according to the One Bermuda Alliance, dying by 1,000 cuts. They are currently understaffed, only operating at 25% capacity. And you know, the One Bermuda Alliance rightly feels that this is on a path to complete erosion. They believe that the way it's heading right now, there will be no ICO. Let's go back to the audience. Sean Smith says, did the ICO, the opposition, or the government say why this position has not been filled? How long have these positions been vacant? Are there no qualified people for these positions? Here's the thing. And those are valid questions, right? My first thought when I read this was, man, everyone's having trouble filling jobs. And it took me back to when Sherry Witter, the head of the public service, was on. I have so many theories about open jobs because if I asked anonymously on this show right now, if I said, send me a message anonymously some way, somehow, are you happy in your job? I am pretty sure 90% of you would say no. Having this conversation with Sister Rashida Godwin this morning before the show. So many people literally hate what they do for a living, but they've got bills to pay and mortgages and the like. And some will say, well, that's just life. I've told you all before. Maybe I'm a different breed, but I have no problem writing thank you for the opportunity. But my health and wellness is more important than any dollar you can give me. The point I'm making is, if there are opportunities available, it may be less money. I know many people who have left jobs for less money. But the peace, you can't put a price on that. So what's the working environment like in the ICO? Is it a place where people want to work? Just adding that to what Sean Smith said. The greater concern here is, let's say they can't find people in Bermuda. Are we comfortable with them bringing people in? My biggest concern in this is transparency. We cannot allow the ICO to just go away. We can't. It's there to provide something that we've been crying for, that we've needed. You make sense? What are your thoughts, the audience? What are your thoughts on the Information Commissioner's Office? And do you believe transparency in Bermuda is getting weaker? This is your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Charles H. Jeffers II says, it's concerning but not surprising. This is what you see in countries that are anti-democratic or where democracy is under threat. I honestly believe that transparency equals good leadership. Here's the thing. Transparency should be the norm, not the exception, right? It should be the norm. As I read Charles' comment, reread it, I think it really comes down to what we're willing to accept as Bermudians. I would love to ask the government some questions about this as well. And I don't think this is political. I don't think it should be political. I think this should really, as the government, they should want this to exist. No, as I mentioned, they're saying they're trying to do more things internal. But that's like, people used to say this about the police, right? The police investigating the police. That just doesn't sound fair, right? I remember we were fighting conscription and we were bringing up the sexual abuse claims in the regiment, and the regiment would say, we're investigating it. Well, you're investigating yourself. Are you really going to put out what really happened? Because we're talking about reputational damage here, right? So I don't know. I think this is a bad look. And I hope that Bermudians understand the need to ensure that this isn't the end of the ICO. I'll put it to you like that. Shonette Sumner says, I know more people who hate their job than like it, let alone love it. People don't investigate their own strengths to venture toward entrepreneurship. They'd rather stay and be miserable. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, there may be some opportunities at the ICO. Suzanne Ingham's like, look, I'm available. Does the ICO want to hire me? So there may be some opportunities. If you hate your job, you don't like what you do, the public service, the corrections, I think they're looking for people. There are quite a lot of opportunities. And I'm not saying this to be funny. I'm not. I just think that whether it's the ICO, our prisons, our public service, think about it. We complain about the public service. Well, there's opportunities for us to get in there and make some changes. It may not be as sexy or beautiful or rewarding as some of the fancy job titles and salaries that you're getting in short-term spaces in the IB sector. And yeah, I said short-term. But, if you're looking to do something of value, your country needs you. Yeah? Maybe I'm going to put my name forward in the ICO, folks. I'll leave you all. We don't need to do this show anymore, and I'll go to the ICO. I'm going to apply. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to apply. But again, we need to shift. We need to shift. Folks, this was your daily discussion brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Again, keep it coming. Just let us know. Yes or no, just a yes or no as we wrap it up. Do you believe transparency in Bermuda is getting weaker? Yes or no? Do you believe transparency in Bermuda is getting weaker? Let's show some love to Titan Express and Secure.
The daily discussion is brought to you by Titan Express and Secure. Titan Express delivers safe, professional, and reliable transportation and tours across the island. From island tours to cultural experiences, they set the standard. And Secure is your go-to for property management, waste management, and residential and commercial services. Visit securebda.com. Professional, punctual, and reliable service is their commitment to you.
All righty, folks. Don't forget, we've got a very, very important conversation coming out with Chief Inspector Robert Cardwell. We're talking about policing prevention and changing driver behavior. We often have conversations about the state of our roads and the way we operate on our roads. Really looking forward to the conversation with Mr. Cardwell. So you don't want to miss that. But we're going to head over to Teo Dill for your daily hour news break. After that, I'll give you the days of the year. We'll take our first commercial break, and then we'll welcome Chief Inspector Cardwell on.
Good morning, I'm Teo Dill, and welcome to your TDH News Break brought to you by the great folks at Peoples. From grandparents to new beginnings, Peoples Pharmacy has cared for every generation, and the next one's just getting started. Police have now arrested 3 young men, including a teenager, in connection with the fatal shooting of 26-year-old Kawaje Rayner. The suspects, aged 22, 21, and 19, are all in custody at this moment. Police say that Rayner, a father of 2, was outside his home around 3:40 p.m. on Sunday, March 15th, when 2 men arrived on a dark-colored motorcycle, entered the yard, and opened fire multiple times. They then fled west along the Wearway Trail. Investigators say the arrests mark significant progress, but they're making it clear that this case is not closed. Detective Sergeant Mark Raposo says that more people likely have information that haven't yet come forward, and he's urging them to do so. If you know anything, you're being asked to contact the police directly, reach out anonymously through Crime Stoppers, or use the online reporting portal. Bottom line, 3 arrests have been made, while police are still actively building this case and pushing for anyone with information to step forward. And Bermuda's commitment to blockchain is as innovative as it is steady, with upcoming announcements, including using this tech for a digital identity system on a national level. This from Anthony Howell, overseas rep for the government of Bermuda and director of the Washington, D.C. office at the U.S. Government Blockchain Association Summit on Capitol Hill.
We are looking very forward to incorporating the blockchain on the island. The announcement was made this year by our premier in Davos, Switzerland. And we're looking right now to plan that next roadmap to, again, be the stalwart in that industry and to be the vanguard for it as well. I do sit on several subcommittees, and while that roadmap is still classified, we're not sharing too much because we want to make some really big announcements later on. I can share that we are looking at various specific areas. For example, digital identity is also a key area in which I sit on the subcommittee for, and we are very much looking at new ways to incorporate technologies to get people built into the system and integrated into the system in Bermuda.
Now, if you're anything like me, you probably wondered what a blockchain-centered digital identity system looks like. A digital identity system on the blockchain is essentially a more secure way to prove who you are without having to rely on a single central authority. Instead of your data sitting in one government or company database, your identity is encrypted and stored across a decentralized network. You control it through a digital wallet, choosing what to share, whether that's your age, credentials, or residency, or whatever. When verification is needed, the system confirms it's valid without exposing all your personal information. So instead of handing over your full ID, you're just proving what's necessary specifically, securely, instantly, and with a lot more control over your own data. Now, tomorrow, we'll tell you about the risks associated with this. And the latest signals out of Bermuda's 2026 Risk Summit are pretty clear. This industry is shifting and fast. After years of hard pricing, we're now looking at record levels of capital meeting softening rates, which means the balance of power is starting to tilt back towards buyers. At the same time, the conversation is moving away from theory and into execution, how companies actually adapt to a world of constant uncertainty, rising catastrophe losses, and geopolitical pressure, aka the ongoing conflict in Iran, for example. Now, AI is part of that, but not the hype version. The focus now is on real underwriting use, data quality, and accountability. And then there's climate risk now, directly shaping how capital is deployed and what even remains insurable. Basically, Bermuda is still right at the center of global risk, but the next phase is about discipline, adaptation, and figuring out how to stay profitable in a much more complex environment. And a cooler, breezier weather pattern has settled in across the island as we move through today. You can expect cloudy spells with a few spotty showers, mainly early and later on in the day. Winds remain east-northeasterly and moderate to strong, easing slightly overnight with a high near 67, low around 63. That unsettled pattern should stick around through Thursday with a lingering chance of showers before conditions improve heading into the end of the week. So today things should be breezy, cooler, and a bit unsettled for now, but better weather is definitely on the way. And that's your TDH News Break brought to you by our friends at Peoples. I'm Teo Dill. Now back to the show.
All right. Thanks so much for that, Teo. Well, look, folks, days of the year, we've got, it's Waffle Day. Yeah, Waffle Day. And I mean, chicken and waffles has been my thing since I moved to Georgia. I don't know. But I guess you can, happy Waffle Day to you. But it's also World Maths Day. Now, I got to ask you folks, just one or the other. Were you a math or an English person in school? Which subject did you prefer? In honor of World Maths Day, were you a math or English? I didn't like math. That's why I told you all the other day. When I went to graduate school, I did my master's in business administration with a concentration in organizational leadership. I had tutoring right until graduation. I'm very honest about that because I am not an academically inclined person, so I needed tutoring. You know, I wasn't afraid to go because I didn't know. And I was like, we're not spending all this money for me not to graduate. Anyway, long story short, I always preferred English. And, you know, I'm not going back to school. I'll say this now. But I always felt like I can write my way or talk my way into a good grade. With math, it was like, look, it's either right or wrong, right? Like, it's 1 + 1 = 2, right? With you know, English, you can talk your way into a grade, like writing a paper. Man, I would write I remember my dissertation. Man, I enjoyed writing. I must have turned it in like 3 months early. So anyway, in honor of World Maths Day, what's your favorite subject? I was definitely, math was not it for me. Sean Smith says math. Oh, you're one of them. Karen Simmons, English, like, okay, we're on the same team. Oh, we got the brainiacs like Stacey Ann Brown. She says both. Oh, my. Suzanne Ingham says English. I loved English. Nicole Walker, another brainiac, both but preferred English. We've got math, says Ross Maven. English, says Renee Sherilyn. Shawnette Sumner, I always excelled in everything English, and I love tutoring it today. All right, there you go. I wasn't good at either, says James Burgess. I'm sure you were better than me in math. Michelle White says English for sure, fun math, unnecessarily hard. Who cares if X doesn't equal Y? I'm with you. Folks, I'm with her. Once they started adding the alphabet to math, it was just like, I'm just going to stick to like English because I'll just stick where the alphabet belongs. So yeah, I agree with you. There was absolutely no reason to bring the alphabet over into math. There was absolutely no reason for it. Charles H. Jefferson II says I was a math guy, but not on the level of EKH, Alan K. Horton, or Dr. Lou. Math, there's a right or wrong answer. English is too subjective. That's why English was my subject, folks. All right, let's take our first break. Get your questions, comments ready. We've got Chief Inspector Robert Cardwell coming up after this short break. Stick with us. Do not go anywhere.
People's ACW, located at King Edward VII Memorial Hospital, carries over-the-counter medicines, toys, cards, and even toiletries. Our knowledgeable staff are there whether you're at emergency, visiting family, or a member of BHB staff, to show you our best even when you're feeling your worst. People's ACW, we're here for you.
Take a look at our workwear for construction workers and tradesmen. Durable, stretchable in all the right places and plenty of options for tools and accessories. Here with our wide range of tough and comfortable footwear, you can't go wrong. As you can see, Medical House really is a one-stop shop for everybody. We can't wait to see you.
See it all at our new expanded location on Bakery Lane.
Discover Drop It, your go-to grocery delivery. Browse and select from a wide range of groceries, from fresh produce to daily essentials. Our friendly drivers deliver fresh groceries to your door fast, saving you time and hassle. With Drop It, you get fresh groceries delivered fast so you can focus on what really matters. Drop It, freshness at your doorstep, delivered to your door with Lindo's. Why go anyplace else?
What lasts isn't what you buy, but what it becomes. With the HSBC MasterCard credit card, every spend quietly adds to a story shaped by intention and offers what matters most. Support that meets you where you are. Protection that preserves what you choose. Confidence for the unexpected. Peace of mind wherever your story leads. Start your next chapter. Use your card today. HSBC is licensed to conduct banking and investment business by the Bermuda Monetary Authority.
What if the age that really matters isn't the one on your ID? You probably know your chronological age, the number of candles on your last birthday cake. But there's another kind of age that may be even more important, your biological age. This reflects how old your body truly is at the cellular level. It is influenced by your genes, your environment, and the choices you make every day. Two people can both be 40 years old on paper, but one may have the body of a healthy 30-year-old, while the other is biologically closer to 50. The difference? Lifestyle choices on nutrition, sleep, stress, exercise, and exposure to toxins. That means you have some control over your biological clock, and that's exactly what makes it so powerful. Because when it comes to aging, it's not just about living longer, it's about living better. Want to know your predicted biological age today? Download the free Carry Genetics app and fill in the lifestyle questionnaire.
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Jamel Hartman here. This is the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, HSBC Bermuda, Medical House, Lindo's, People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 107.5 for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. Folks, don't forget to subscribe on our website and follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. If you are streaming with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, or Instagram, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share the conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Folks, we've got a very special guest for the day. please give a warm TDH welcome to Chief Inspector Robert Cardwell.
Yes, good morning to you, the listening audience.
Greetings, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Before we jump into anything, I gotta ask you. It is Waffle Day, but it's Math Day, World Math Day. Were you a math or an English person?
I'm on your side with that. I was English. I can write my way out of anything.
There you go. There you go. I was always told you should go into law school. Then I found out how long that was. I'm like, nah, I'm good with that. But yeah, no, math was always a challenge for me. But well, first of all, thanks for doing this. Thanks for always making time for us. Before we jump in, I don't post on TikTok often, but I was on my way to the airport leaving Bermuda earlier this month, and we came across a collision on right before, as you're heading east past Ice Queen up that hill, up the hill there, and then Napton Hill as well. So 2 collisions in that time. And, a drive to the airport. I know people might say, well, that's a long drive from, Southampton to St. George. But considering what I drive when I'm just going out on a regular day in the US, it's really not a long drive. But that said, I wrote a post and I said, I've seen 2 collisions. And based on what I saw on the roads while I was in Bermuda, nothing about it surprised me. We have these conversations, the police out there doing the work. And something that annoys me, one of my colleagues on our Daily Hour team is always speaking about police presence, which we'll get to a bit later. But from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges officers face when it comes to policing Bermuda's roads?
Okay, so for you to see 2 collisions on your journey from Southampton to St. George is probably not all that unusual. So right now, we're experiencing anywhere between 6 and 12 collisions a day. You'll appreciate those numbers are very high. Now, the challenge that creates for the Bermuda Police Service is that's a lot of police time. So each accident requires a lot of police time. And when officers are off the road investigating collisions, they're not on the road doing enforcement or responding to the gun, gang, drug problem that we're having on the island.
And I think that's important to note for everyone, audience. Just note this, what he's saying. When the police are taken away for fender bender, like collision that's blocking the traffic. I mean, the one in past Ice Queen, I mean, traffic was going back for days. It's already hard coming out of the west, right? But it was going back. When you take the police away and they have to do that, people are not dumb. They say, oh, I see this as an opportunity to do other things. Chief Inspector, we often hear concerns about speeding, impaired driving, and reckless behavior. What trends are you currently seeing in those, I think you said 10 to 12 a day, and how serious is the situation?
All right, so let me impaired driving. The trend that we're seeing right now is a lot of our collisions involve impaired drivers. We're turning up at collision scenes and finding somebody's impaired by alcohol, and they're having collisions. People are crashing all over the place because they're drinking and driving. The other major issue behind the collisions we're having is speed. The speeds on our roads have gotten far too fast. We put our roads policing guys out to go and shoot the laser, which is the speed trap everybody hears about. And in an hour, they can catch as many as 30 speeders. And those 30 speeders are in excess of 60, 70, 80 kilometers an hour. We've even put them in the hundreds. So impaired driving and speed is contributing to the collisions that we're having.
As far as reckless, one of the things that annoys me is seeing people distracted driving on their cellular phones and whatnot. Are you finding that that's increasing in Bermuda as well?
Well, you know what? We all drive around every day, and we see people they're driving and they're on their phones. And the sad thing is that you can always tell when you're behind somebody who's talking on their phone. They start braking unnecessarily. They're swerving around the road, and you can just tell they're distracted and they're on their phone. Now, that distraction will cause you an accident.
Audience, if you have any questions or comments for Chief Inspector Cardwell, please send them through. There's also an expectation on drivers to take responsibility. We speak about that so often on this show about being accountable. This is not a police problem. It's a community problem. It's an us problem. Where do you think the balance lies between enforcement and personal accountability?
Well, personal accountability leads the way. So what we've done is there are three strands in the issues that we're dealing with. One is roads engineering. The second one is education, and the third one is enforcement. On roads engineering, we can appreciate, there are potholes on the road, and people are swerving and weaving to avoid potholes, and they end up crashing into something going the other direction. In fact, we've stopped people on suspicion of impaired driving, and then we found they're not impaired at all. They're just swerving around potholes.
Mm-hmm.
The other important thing is education. Education is now where we're putting a lot of energy. We're trying to get out there in the community every which way we can to say, it's all about personal responsibility. The responsibility to drive appropriately, correctly, without due care, without being reckless, it's a personal responsibility thing. And then there's enforcement. Now, enforcement, everybody would have heard of Operation Vega. We ran that operation for 3 years. And that was a really heightened enforcement on the roads. And we issued thousands of tickets during that time. Now, here's what we found out from doing that. In that exercise, whilst we're issuing thousands of tickets, our collision numbers never reduced. It had no impact on collisions. So enforcement and collisions are not linked. What is linked is education and collisions. So the more we can get out there and tell people to, careful with how you're driving, don't, having an accident is a real pain in the neck. You got to have the police attend. And when they attend, they're going to be all in your socks. They want to know, what were you doing? What was going on at the time of the collision? Where were you going? There's a lot of questions that are asked in that. You might have to have an EMT attend. You're being carried off to the hospital. And it's a lot of resources in collisions. You have the investigating officer. He's supported by a traffic collision investigator. That's an expert in the field. And then they have forensics, so come in to take photographs and road measurements. So there's a lot involved in collisions.
So let's go a bit deeper on strategy, because Operation Vega. Thank you for that information, and audience, hold on to that as well. That more tickets did not decrease collisions. That was a concern for ages, and I don't know if you're able to share your opinion on this, but a lot of concern on this show. I appreciated that the way that the Bermuda Police Service was doing it, in terms of letting people know, hey, this is where we're going to be. Don't be got caught slipping or be surprised. Well, a lot of concern on this show. Most people disagreed with me. They were like, no, the police shouldn't let people know where they are. And I'm not asking you to share your opinion on that, but do you believe, based on that experience, that if the police did not share their locations, it would have been more effective?
Well, when we're going out there and we're doing general policing, general enforcement, we're not sharing our location. It gets out there really quickly if we're in a location and we're shooting a speed laser, it gets out there and messaging that, hey, the police are, on Crow Lane or wherever. That goes really, really quickly. The only time we actually do reveal our location is when we're doing roadside sobriety.
Right.
That just comes down to legislation. The way the legislation was written, we have to advertise that we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, and when we're going to do it. And that being said, every time we do roadside sobriety, we catch impaired drivers. So it really doesn't have an effect.
Indeed. Thank you for that. You kept mentioning education. Along with education, what strategies is the Bermuda Police Service using to reduce collisions and encourage safer driving habits across the island?
It's all about messaging. We're trying to get out there. I was in the newspaper just this last week. I've been on ZBM Evening News. I've been on every single radio talk show talking about this subject, trying to get people to understand the seriousness of the problem. So let me explain some of the seriousness of the problem. So our statistics show us that once every 30 days, we will have a road fatality. That's what our statistics tell us. Now, this year, you'll appreciate we had 4 fatalities before we came out of February. So our numbers are way ahead this year already. So we might not get to 12. We might get to 14, 15 by the end of this year. That's 15 lives lost. Now, the sad thing on the other end of that is the amount of serious injury collisions we're dealing with. Serious injury collisions are 1 every 3 days. Now, let me put that into context for everybody, because I don't think people really understand what a serious injury collision is. So when we have a fatality accident, everybody knows who it was, who was involved, and the condolences and everything. But you don't hear a lot about serious injury collisions. Obviously, we're restricted on the information that we can release on serious injury collisions. But serious collisions are collisions that involve life-altering injury. So let me speak about those life-altering injuries. That's the loss of a hand, the loss of an arm, the loss of a foot, the loss of a leg, and paralysis. That's 1 every 3 days. I sit here at my desk and I see the collisions, and I'm like, wow, another serious injury collision. Sometimes we can have more than that, one every 3 days. These are statistics, but they are so regular. And people are in the hospital dealing with really, really serious injuries, and they're life-changing injuries.
And I think, Maya has spoken to us about that before. Is like, if it's not a fatality, we just, okay, move along and don't understand. There are people who may not be able to walk again and do the jobs that they, have been working at their careers. So life-changing injuries are something that definitely should be considered. But how do we get that message through if, there's only so much information that can be shared, right? Is it getting a campaign together with people who are willing to, you spoke about messaging, share the message of what happened. I heard a story from someone where one of their students, good student, just minding their business, riding home from work, and was struck by someone, and now their life's never going to be the same. Someone in that same conversation said, well, that's the problem in Bermuda, is that, the law should state if you are guilty of, hitting someone or creating that space where they have that life-altering situation, you should be responsible for supporting them. Like, would that change things? I don't know, but I'm glad we're having this conversation because, again, like you said, people don't consider that.
Yeah, but you'll see more and more people are appearing in the courts for causing GBH by dangerous driving, and also in the Supreme Courts causing death by dangerous driving. And we have a number of cases on the docket awaiting trial. So people are being held accountable. Now, the extent of that accountability, that could be questioned.
Yeah. Audience, again, I'll get to your questions and comments in a few. Keep them coming. So this is a little contentious part that I have with some of my colleagues and some of the audience. There are so many people who, members of the public, who feel enforcement isn't always consistent, right? How do you respond to those concerns about visibility and accountability on our roads? The police are never here. Or the police, when I was young, the police used to be here. And look, I've seen people overtake a police car recently, and nothing happened. When I was young, you'd be afraid to do something like that. But how do you respond to concerns that there's a lack of police visibility? That's why we have the state of our roads we do.
In the police service, we're always striving for visibility. We think that that's effective when we are out there and people see us. Now, here's the one thing is, and it's a given, we can't be everywhere. So when I say, we had Operation Vega and we're issuing thousands of tickets, we're not issuing thousands of tickets anymore. We're issuing hundreds. So we're out there every day, and lots of tickets are getting written for various offenses: driving without due care, driving dangerous driving, unlicensed, uninsured vehicles, disqualified driving, no driver's license. Those offenses are still being hit. So we are out there and we are on the roads, but we cannot be everywhere. So people won't always see us. And as I explained, we're off the road more than we're on it, because there are so many different things happening in the police service. So, like I said, every time there's a collision, that's hours off the road dealing with collision. Then we've got the other issues that are going on this island. We have assaults, we have theft, we have domestic disputes. All of these things take us off the road. So, I think it's generally known that the police is short on the ground with our resources. Obviously, if we have more resources, we can be more visible. That's the space we're trying to get into with our recruiting campaigns and trying to bring our numbers up. So it just comes down to we are out there. Even if you don't see us, we're available. In fact, every call that comes into the police service, a police officer responds. Every single call will get a police officer coming to you. As far as the visibility, we strive to be in that space. We think it's effective. We've done things like we park police motorcycles on Crow Lane, and that's just so people see the police motorcycle and they think, "Ooh, they're out." It might be an empty bike. It might be an empty bike. We've done that. We've sent empty bikes out. We've sent empty cars out, just so that they're visible and people can change what they.
Yeah, I see on the highways all the time, people, soon as when there's a cop up the street, a mile up because you just see brake lights ahead of you, right? So I think that's the point he's making, folks. Real quickly, I'm going to go to the audience, but I want to go back to something you said earlier regarding speeding, because I think it was the early 2000s where they started bringing in, more powerful scooters in particular. I think 125s instead of, the slower ones. And we had a discussion in one of my chat groups about it, and people arguing whether or not, we need to go back to, the slower bikes versus the more powerful. And I said, well, I thought it was an environment thing back then. But when I was young, those who had this slower bikes, they used to get these things, and Shikarina mentions it here. They used to put kits on rental bikes to, limit speed for them. But I remember they used to put kits on Bermudians used to put kits on their bikes to make them go faster. Is that something that you're still facing today with people putting additional stuff on vehicles? And then I'll get to her question.
Yeah, we actually not as rampant as it used to be, people putting kits on motorcycles, because I know you talked about the CC of motorcycles that have gone up to 125 cc's. Actually, they've gone up to 150 cc's. But that's not the problem, because you can get 80K on a 50 cc. And you can get 80K on 125 cc or 150 cc. So, whilst they're more powerful rather than faster, you can get up the hill quicker than you could previously. So we don't see the cc of the motorcycles being a contributor to the issues that we're having.
Okay, that's good to know. You solved an argument in one of my chat groups. But her question is, they used to put the kits on rental bikes to limit their speed. Is this something that could be done on cars?
I've never heard of something being put on a rental bike to limit the speed, because generally your rental bikes are clapped out anyway. They don't get very fast. They don't go very fast. You can see that with the tourists that are riding them. Now, as far as putting a limit on cars, I have heard that in the USA they are starting to do that. I've also heard they're putting breathalyzers in cars that you have to breathe into a machine before the car will start. So those kind of gadgets are available out there. I don't know if we'll be going down that road.
That's actually brilliant. Sean Smith says, CI Cardwell, what warrants a police presence to attend a collision? Here in Portugal, police do not attend minor collisions.
Yeah. So the rule of thumb is that if there's an injury involving collision involving personal injury, the police have to respond. That's by law. If there's a collision involving damage to personal property, i.e. a wall, the police have to respond. If it's a fender bender and you can work out between yourselves, then the police don't need to respond. So we're trying to encourage people to, if you have a fender bender, just have a conversation, exchange your details. Somebody has to take fault, and let your insurance company know there's going to be a claim on your insurance policy. So yeah, that's the path we're generally going down.
All right. We've got Dwayne Santucci says, have the police considered that some driving incidents can be related to the COVID-19 vaccine and the people that are having effects from the vaccines, but no one in the authorities seems to be looking at this. Have you come across anything like this?
No. So when we went through the COVID period, we, funny enough, did see a reduction in collisions because movement was restricted. But the one thing that we do come across every now and then, and we've had a couple of instances. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, there was like 5 cars flipped within 2-week period, and we were getting to the bottom of how are people flipping their cars. Well, we found that one was actually the driver suffered a medical emergency while they were driving, and they suffered a fit and hit the wall and flipped the car over. Another one, the driver fell asleep, and this is 1 o'clock in the morning. The driver fell asleep, hit another car, turned the car over. And then another one involved just speed. It was going far too fast for the conditions of the road, and for the driver to be able to see what was in front of them to avoid it, and then flip the car over. And we did have one on Burnt House Hill several weeks ago, and that driver was under the influence of prescription drugs. So they weren't intoxicated on alcohol. It was a prescription drug. And on that bottle, it says, do not operate a vehicle under the influence of this drug. Well, that driver decided, I'm going to take this drug and I'm going to drive my car, and then end up flipping it over on Burnt House Hill. So, we do have these medical episodes that do for the collisions, but as far as the COVID period, we did see a reduction in collisions. And I think it's the only time in 20 years where we've gone through a period with a reduction in collisions.
Maurice Foley says, what about e-bikes that are operating as an alternative to regular motorbikes and in most countries are considered auxiliary cycles? These e-bikes are traveling much faster than regular motorcycles. Have you come across any incidents with e-bikes?
We haven't had too many collisions involving e-bikes, but it's a constant topic of conversation. So there are two types of e-bikes. There is the electrically assisted e-bike. So that means the electricity assists the pedaling. Now, according to our legislation, they do not appear in any legislation to be governed, regulated, or anything else. You can, and then the e-bikes, the bikes that are just electrically propelled are covered in our Auxiliary Bicycles Act. Government's going through a period right now where they're trying to figure out how to enforce that. Because with the electrical assist bikes and the e-bikes, you don't require a driver's license. You don't require insurance. There's no requirement to wear a helmet. So there's a number of issues around e-bikes. Right now, we're not seeing too many instances involving e-bikes.
That is so interesting to me. I hadn't even considered that. Mark Arthur is saying, are there some frequent accident spots that need to be fixed, i.e. traffic lights?
Yeah, I mean, we do have frequent accident spots and they're marked with a black dot. One frequent accident spot that comes to my mind straight away is T Street coming on the middle road. There are always collisions there. We do have recommendations in the Bermuda Road Safety Council is following up on that to fix that junction. And the solution that we came up with is very simple. Right now, when you're coming off of T Street onto Middle Road, there are two lanes, one going left and one going right. What inevitably happens is the person in the left lane can't see to the right and pulls out and hits something. So what we've recommended is to reduce that to a single lane coming out of that junction. There are some other black spot areas. Generally, the traffic lights do assist us with collisions if people obey the traffic lights, that is, because we do have people running red lights and then having collisions. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that, because that was going to be my follow-up question. What makes T Street such a hot spot? And I don't think having those people are not going to like me for this. There's people who were hanging up like advertisements out there. I don't think that was helping. It just created even more people taking their time looking. But I've always wondered what made that such a hot spot. Now, I didn't realize this until I worked in tourism, and tourists would say, well, Bermuda doesn't really have any traffic lights. And then you realize there's only two traffic lights outside of the city, which is Collectors Hill and Ice Queen. You said that just now that traffic lights, they'll only work if people abide by them. But are there any areas outside of where we have now that you think, would actually be of help? T Street, again, people have been asking. I think my concern in Bermuda, why I drive so defensive, all right, is because it's so many blind corners. No matter how slow I feel like I'm going, all it takes is somebody to come out straight out and not see me, not because they're, being reckless, but because it's just a blind corner and they've waited there for like 10 seconds, nothing, then they come and so on. But is there anywhere that comes to mind for you in your profession that you think, traffic lights will probably be effective here in reducing collisions?
My view is I don't think necessarily need traffic lights to govern our driving behavior. We all have to be responsible for our own driving behavior. So, traffic lights are on the side. Our city is flooded with traffic. There's 1,000 traffic lights in the city, but we still have collisions. Just the other day, we had a pedestrian cleaned off of a crossing, and that was speed. The driver was going far too fast. The pedestrian stepped out, got cleaned out, and the driver didn't stop. He kept going. A quick action for the police, because we found that driver, I think, within an hour and a half after that collision, and we arrested them for the dangerous driving and brought them into the police station.
What would you say success looks like for you when it comes to road safety? And what role does the public and the cooperation play in achieving that?
Okay, so what success would look like for us is a reduction in collisions. It comes down to that simple. So reduction in collisions is don't drink and drive. We live in a very social island. Everybody likes to go out and have a cocktail. Go out and have that cocktail. But when you're going on to number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, you're impaired. So you can't drive. So you've got to have responsibility for your actions, that if you've been drinking, don't drive. We attend too many collisions involving impaired driving. A lot of our fatal collisions involve impaired driving. And then the other thing is to slow down. Our roads are far too fast. I mean, you can get away on the speed limit's 35K. Go on the track, you can get away with 50. You can get away with 50K. But 51, 52, 53, you're going to get a speeding ticket. And when you get into the 70s, 80s, and 90s, well, that's far too fast. And here's what we say. The faster you're going, the less time you have to react to what's going on in front of you. So people have collisions as a result of speed. So impaired driving and speed are two of the major factors that we need to get the message across to people so that we can start reducing our collisions.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Chief Inspector Cardwell. I wanna just share this comment. You don't have to respond to it, but I think this is something I noticed in Bermuda, which really ticked me off. Zena Woolridge says, sometimes actions people take to be courteous are dangerous, such as stopping on a roundabout to let someone from another lane come into the flow of traffic, or stopping suddenly to let someone into traffic. I'm going to use Front Street. So I think it's right where Pickled Onion is. There's the parking lot, and people always stop to let people out of that parking lot. And then as they do that, someone comes on a bike, either in the inside or outside. What advice would you say to people about being courteous? Because being courteous is actually a dangerous thing in some spaces in Bermuda. No, I don't think being courteous contributes to any danger. Now, the danger that we have is with bikes is the third laning. And I can tell you this now, we got a bit of rain around this morning, and people will third lane. And guess what will happen when you're third laning? It's inevitable. Somebody's going to turn right, and you're going to crash into the side of that vehicle. I can guarantee you that would have happened once or twice already this morning. So, I don't think that we can tell people not to be courteous on the roads, because, you have some tight junctions. And sometimes, I know coming out of Montpelier Road onto Middle Road, you do require some courtesy to get out of that junction. And the cars will stop to let you out of the junction. And it's always a pleasure when people are courteous, so you can move around. And just to be clear, I wasn't saying the person's being courteous is dangerous. I'm saying the people who are not respecting people who are showing courtesy, creating a dangerous space. So no, we need courtesy on our roads. Trust me, more courtesy is needed. Chief Inspector, thank you so much for this conversation. My hope is that we get you back during the summer, and we're having a great conversation that, collisions have been reduced. People are abiding by the roads. And, I'm also grateful because when the collisions, I remember that period, it was within the last month when those cars were flipping, people were like wondering what's happening. And I always say with a friend of mine, we're always like, maybe it was a medical episode. That's always the first thing we want to think, because we don't want to believe that you've just seen two cars flip and then it's just become this norm, and it's this, oh, it can't happen to me. So thank you for the information you shared. Thank you for the facts, the data. And please know that if there's anything that you will ever need to communicate or engage with our audience, send it on through. Mr. Hartman, I also want to say thank you very much for having us on, getting the message out there, messaging. And like I said, it's the education. We need everybody to take this on board. Everybody has to be courteous. Everybody has to be responsible for their own actions on the roads. And if we do that, we will reduce the collisions. It's that simple. Indeed. Chief Inspector Robert Cardwell, thanks again. As Suzanne's saying, yes, come again, please. They appreciate you. So we'll talk soon. Have a great day. Thank you very much. All right. Chief Inspector Robert Cardwell. Folks, if you found that conversation helpful, please, he's Dwayne Santucci says the information was informative. I hope you all found it helpful. Again, if you're streaming with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, or Instagram, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues. We're going to take our final break. After this break, we'll come back. I'll give my final thoughts. But before I give my final thoughts, we've got a daily play for you. And I think you all will get this. Stick with us.
Life moves fast, and so can the unexpected. When you insure your home, you need to know that your insurance company has your back. At Friesenbrook, let one of our friendly and professional agents give you that peace of mind. Because when you are covered, you are confident. Call us at 296-3600 or visit friesenbrook.bm to learn more.
Bermuda, there's nothing like a home-cooked meal, especially when you can feed the whole family without stretching your wallet. With the affordable Bermuda basket, you'll find savings on everyday staples like rice, chicken, corn, and more. Everything you need to make a good meal for less. Shop the Bermuda basket at Lindo's, Marketplace, the Garden Market, and the English Market. Visit costofliving.gov.bm to see the full list of goods and start planning your meals. This is a message from the Ministry of Home Affairs.
Dreaming of expanding your business? With BDC's Loan Guarantee Program, we support your ambitions. Get up to 75% guarantee on bank or credit union loans up to $300,000. Just your vision and our support. Apply today and unlock new business opportunities. BDC, Bermuda Business starts here.
For over 70 years, Bermuda Pest Control has been protecting homes and businesses island-wide. We offer a full suite of services, including rodent control, termite fumigation, and general insect control and maintenance. Our team of experts will quickly and efficiently eliminate any pest problem you may have. With Bermuda Pest Control, you can enjoy a pest-free home in no time. We're committed to providing fast, reliable, and solution-driven services for our customers. It's what we've been doing since 1952. Call Bermuda Pest Control today and say goodbye to pests for good.
Looking for the best care for your pets? Novazog Feed and Supply has everything you need, from top quality foods to toys and supplies. We've got it all. Join our frequent buyer program and earn rewards every time you shop. Plus, we've been awarded the Clever Customer Initiative program for helping you save more. And don't forget, we open an hour early on Saturdays so you can get a head start on your pet care. Visit us today or shop online for easy pickup or delivery. Your pets will thank you.
The Office of Consumer Affairs protects residents by promoting fairness, safety, and transparency in the marketplace across the island. We investigate complaints, manage recalls, educate the public, and enforce consumer protection laws to ensure fair treatment for all. Our team supports consumers by resolving disputes, providing guidance, and helping residents understand their rights and responsibilities. We work with businesses to encourage compliance, ethical practices, and trust, helping create a stable and competitive economy. Through education, enforcement, and outreach, Consumer Affairs helps keep Bermuda's marketplace safe, informed, and accountable.
Alrighty, welcome back to the big show. Thanks again to Chief Inspector Robert Cardwell and everyone at the Bermuda Police Service who continues to trust this platform to engage all of you live. Folks, thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, HSBC Bermuda, Medical House Lenders, People's Pharmacy, and big love to Hot 1075 for ensuring that we can pump through the radio airwaves with these most important community conversations. Again, if you haven't already and you are streaming with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, or Instagram, just do us a favor. It costs you nothing. Give us a like, love, follow, share the link with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Folks, it is time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia, now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. All right, are you ready? It is music and entertainment today. Don't let us down. What Korean hip-hop music trend took the world by storm in 2010? All right. Stacey Ann Brown got it first. K-pop. Charles H. Jeffs second. K-pop. IFIS. K-pop. All right. You all know what's happening. All right, cool kids. Yeah, it was K-pop. K-pop. I don't think I know any K-pop music, but I know about. What's the no? That's William Hung. He wasn't K-pop. Anyway, I don't know any K-pop music, folks. But it was a thing. It was a thing. All righty. Well, let's wrap it up. As far as the ICO discussion this morning, I definitely do feel that the general public needs to be a bit louder as it relates to the ICO. It's one of those things where you don't want to wait until it's not there to make noise. I'll leave that at right there. As far as the conversation with Chief Inspector Robert Cardwell, we've had these conversations time and time again. I don't believe that we need an increased police presence. I think we need to be more mature on the roads. I think we need to be more accountable on the roads. Look, all of us are human. There's someone we get angry at on the road all the time. Some of us, sometimes we're making time and someone stops to let someone out. And we get angry and mad because they let the first one out. Then they let the second one out. And then you're like honking and carrying on. But here's the truth about it. Whether they let one person, 3 people, or no one out, you're still not going to be pretty much any later or earlier than you were going to be. I think the point I'm trying to make is that whatever time you arrive depends on what you do prior to getting on the road, not you actually being on the road. So I would ask everyone to look within. I had someone on the road the other day just sitting at a traffic light. And I just get it, not the hurt. I didn't sit on my honk, just the honk, because something told me they were in their cell phone or doing something and they didn't see that the light turn green. The other part about impairment, well, I don't have that problem, but I'm glad that he brought up medication, because medication is as harmful. And a lot of us don't even read it. It says, do not operate any machinery or vehicle after taking this. Listen to that. Listen to that advice. It's there for a reason. It's there for a reason. And then the whole impairment with alcohol, we know better. We just don't do better. We just don't do better. And speeding. I know potholes were mentioned, but the slower you go, the easier it'll be to handle going into a pothole you didn't see. At least on a bike. The easier it'll be for you to actually see that pothole as well. Point I'm making is all of us have a role to play. Stop looking for someone to police us. We're adults. There's no need to be aggressive on those small roads. You'll make it to your destination safely if you respect others and yourself. We as a community just need to do better. It's not a lecture. I'm talking about myself as well. If you have a camera in your car, take the little card, micro card out, put it in your computer, and just watch how you drive some days. It's this thing in radio and TV where you do air checks and you self-critique. Do that. If you have a camera in your car, do that. Reality is going to hit hard once you realize that you are part of the problem. Give you some daily inspiration. This one's from The Journey Within. This is my book that we'll be releasing later this year. I'm going back to what we spoke about earlier, about work. Quote, going to work because you love your job is much better than going to work because you need a job. Find something you love and stick with it, folks. Make a living from it. All righty. Well, don't forget to subscribe on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to our partners, the BAC Group of Companies, HSBC Bermuda, Medical House Lenders, People's Pharmacy, and a big love to Hot 107.5 for ensuring that we can pump through the radio areas with these most important community conversations. As always, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. One more quick thing. Want to give a big birthday shout out to our colleague, Larry Marshall Jr. Folks, give him a birthday shout out. Celebrated his birthday yesterday. We missed it, but if you see him, just make sure you give him a shout. Happy birthday to Larry Marshall Jr. Turned another year wiser. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you tomorrow. I'm Jamal Hartman. Please do make it a safe and a great day. We are is out. Peace.